What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I am DK Wrestler.
And I'm MD Shady.
And today it's all about the San Diego Comic-Con 2023 exclusive pops. We've been waiting a little bit for these reveals. It's a little bit weird how they've been revealing them, which we'll get into in a little bit. But for today's pod, we're going to kick off, obviously, with our thoughts of this Comic-Con overall, including what we think of the exclusives. And then we're going to be going through basically each of the different days. A couple of them I'll mention multiple days at a time, name our favorites and least favorites from the days, and then list off basically a few of our favorites overall from this Comic-Con. But nonetheless, we will kick off with our first segment of discussing about what we think about San Diego Comic-Con 2023. It's not bad, but it's not the greatest either. I feel like it's a typical San Diego Comic-Con we've been getting the last couple of years where there's some fire, but there's not some fire. But I think my biggest gripe about this con this year is the way that they've been doing the reveals, where we basically got a week and a half of reveals, but they were like very small and sporadic, and they decided to have days off in between. And it was just, we were sick and tired of waiting, and they should have done what they normally do is like pick 3 days, and it's just 3 days of huge reveals, even to the point where Funko even admitted online that some delays happened and that they couldn't reveal everything during these reveals, even though they had a ton of time to do it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It was definitely weird. Seemed like the reveals were very, very late. We expected them like a couple weeks ago compared to what we got. And yeah, it was weird only seeing like, let's say some days there was only like 3 reveals rather than having like a whole day or 2 days or whatever of having a bunch of reveals. And it felt like a little lackluster because of that, because let's say if there's a day of reveals and there's nothing really interesting to you, it feels like, uh-oh, like you kind of get scared. Like, is there going to be anything for this con that you're going to want to get? Overall, there are some good pops, but I feel like a lot of it is stuff that I don't care too much about owning. But there is, of course, some select pops in here that are absolute necessary for my collection.
All right, so now we're going to be going through the different days of reveals, which range from July 6th to July 14th, which first off, we're going to mention about day 1 and day 2 from July 6th and July 7th. So day 1 of reveals kicked off with a Goldie Roger wanted poster from One Piece, which is going to be shared with the Funko shop in the US only, a 2-pack of Tanjiro and Urokodaki from Demon Slayer, which is going to be shared with Box Lunch in the US and Indigo here in Canada, Rita Repulsa from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is going to be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US, Air Razor from Transformers Rise of the Beast, which is going to be shared with Amazon in both Canada and the US. And the last reveal for day 1 is a Rodimus and Galvatron 2-pack from the regular Transformers, which is going to be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US. And then for July 7th, day 2, first we have 2 Toucan pops, which first off is just a regular Toucan, which will be shared with the Funko shop. And that'll be the same thing with the Freddy Funko as Toucan also. And then we have a Diamond Collection 3-pack of Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup from Powerpuff Girls, which this will be limited to, I believe, 2,000 or 3,000 pieces. So therefore it is con only. Barry Allen from The Flash, which is going to be shared with the Funko shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. Bizarro Superman from the Warner Brothers 100th lineup, which is going to be shared with the Funko shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. And last but not least, for day 2, we have Alina Starkov from Shadow and Bone, which is going to be shared with Books A Million in the US and Indigo here in Canada. And I will mention, for the most part, I will not really be talking about these reveals since we have been doing lots of San Diego Comic-Con content on the channel where I have really discussed what I mostly have said already. So instead of repeating it, I'm just going to let MD discuss what he has to say. If there's anything I want to add to it, I will at the end before mentioning what our favorites and least favorites were from each of the day.
All right, so starting off, we have the One Piece wanted cover, and this is pretty cool. I've been really enjoying how these have been looking. I believe this is the 3rd one that we've gotten now, and I really like the pop. I like how the pop looks. I don't really know about this character. I haven't watched too much of One Piece. I have kind of started it, but I haven't really got into it. So overall, this one's looking pretty cool. The 2-pack from Demon Slayer, and this is okay. It's nothing too crazy. There have been some really awesome looking Demon Slayer pops, but these feel like they make sense for a con. Then we have the Rita Repulsa, and this is really cool. It's probably my favorite Rita Repulsa pop, but it's also not too much different from the other ones that we've seen besides like the Power Rangers movie one, because that's a completely different Rita Repulsa. But I probably will end up wanting to get this for my collection because I don't even have a Rita Repulsa in my collection yet. The Transformers pop, and this is really cool. I'm yet to see the movie, and I really want to because the Beast Wars aspect is just awesome. And this pop, there's a lot of detail on this, so this looks sweet. Then we have the Transformers 2-pack Galvatron. That's really cool. But I don't know. I feel like these Transformer pops don't really need to be con exclusives. Then we have, of course, the Toucans, and it's very interesting that we're seeing a Freddy Funko this way, and I think it's pretty cool. It makes sense. And then the one where he's kind of has like the Superman outfit on, that's kind of cool. I like the flying position, but I feel like there have been better ones in the past. The 3-pack of the Powerpuff Girls Diamond Collection, and this makes sense to be a limited piece count because I feel like this just wouldn't sell that well. If you really want the pops, just buy those pops. I don't really think they have to be Diamond Collection, but it kind of makes sense. You got the sugar and spice and everything nice or whatever, so it kind of makes sense to have Powerpuff Girls be Diamond Collection. The Flash Pop, and this is cool. I'm not sure if it's glow in the dark or not. I don't think it is, but it would make sense to be glow in the dark, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see another one of these that is or isn't glow in the dark in the future. I don't remember the exact name of this character. DK, you want to refresh me here?
It is Bizarro Superman.
Okay. This is pretty cool. I think this is probably the best for DC. This is really cool. It's a version that I don't believe we've actually seen of Superman, and it's pretty cool for the Warner Brothers 100. And then we have this character from this Netflix series, Shadow something Bone. I know nothing about this series or movie, so I don't really know what to base this off of, but it is a very kind of basic pop besides like the hands and what's going on with that. But I don't know, this again doesn't really feel like a con pop to me.
To add on to some of the things you have mentioned, so the Barry Allen, unfortunately, is not glow in the dark, although it would make sense if it was because of the lightning energy that's around him. And then the Bizarro Superman, there was a Bizarro Superman they made it as like one of the first DC pops. It's just one of those ones that they decided, let's remake it again because we haven't made it in like 10 years or so. So
okay, I think I can actually picture it in my head now that you say that.
But this is like 2023 standards, and it's really cool. As terms to favorites and least favorites, least favorite for day one is probably, wow, this is really difficult. They're all pretty decent pops. Probably Rita Repulsa, only because it's way too similar to the previous one. And my favorite would probably have to be the Demon Slayer 2-pack because we have Yuro Kadaki now in pop form. And then for day two, my least favorite has to be Alina Starkov. It probably would be my least favorite out of both of those days. Very basic, and I have no knowledge of Shadow and Bone. It doesn't really make me interested in the show. And then my favorite of the day two reveals will probably have to be the new Bizarro Superman.
Yeah, so for day one, I would say that my least favorite is probably the Transformers 2-pack. It just doesn't really need to be a con exclusive, I don't think. There's nothing that really feels super special about it besides Galvatron, which is pretty sweet. And then my favorite for day one, I gotta go with the Rita Repulsa. It does look a lot like the other two Rita Repulsas that we've seen, but I do think this is the one to get, and this probably will be the one that I add to my collection because I feel like I don't need every single version of Rita Repulsa. And then for day two, my least favorite also has to be the pop from Shadow and Bone. There's just not a ton going on with it. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like the worst seller out of the con, honestly. And then my favorite, the Bizarro Superman. I mean, the detail in there is pretty cool. I like the stance. Just everything about this pop is pretty sweet.
Next up, we're going to be talking about day 3 and day 4, since I believe both of these were like the least announced during both of those days throughout the entire con. So July 8th for day 3, we have 2 brand new pops of Jimi Hendrix, which the first one, the regular one, is going to be shared with FYE in the US and Sunrise Records here in Canada. And then the blacklight version is a con-only pop. It is yet to be determined how many pieces this will be. And then for DC Comics Justice League, we have Trigon and The Question, which Trigon is going to be shared with Walgreens in the US only. And then The Question is going to be shared with eBay in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. Talia al Ghul from Batman, which is going to be shared with Hot Topic in both Canada and the US. And then finally, for day 3, we have Bugs Bunny as Fred Flintstone for the Warner Brothers 100th lineup, which is going to be shared with Toy Tokyo in the US only. And then July 9th being day 4, we only had 2 pops announced here, and then there was also the Biddy pops that day also. First, we have Frodo Baggins with Ring from Lord of the Rings, which is going to be shared with Hot Topic in both Canada and the US. And then Jeff the Dude Lebowski, which is going to be shared with Best Buy in the US only.
All right, so day 3 to start off, we have the Jimi Hendrix, and this is unnecessary. I feel like there's a lot of Jimi Hendrix pops now, as well as we've seen Blacklight pops before, so it's nothing new, nothing really that special, but I do like the molding for this pop. I think it looks pretty cool, and the Blacklight one, it's okay. I like the colorway. I think that the purple on the attire maybe could have been a little bit different, and it might have stood out a little bit more, and especially with the hair. I feel like something maybe should have gone on with the hair. And then we have the Justice League pops, and these both look sweet. I mean, you have the one guy who has like 4 eyes, and then you have one that has none. The Question, that's pretty cool. I enjoy both of these pops, and I wouldn't be surprised if they sell very, very well at the con. And then we have the Batman pop. Can't remember the name of this character, but again, it's one of those pops that just, it doesn't seem like a con pop. There's just not a ton going on with it that really screams con pop in my mind. Then we have the Bugs Bunny as Fred Flintstone, and this is pretty cool. Not really what I expected, but it's not really too surprising either, considering we did recently just get all the Looney Tunes characters for the Scooby-Doo lineup. That mashup was cool, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more characters with this, maybe at future cons, or maybe even just a wave that doesn't have the Bugs Bunny in it, or maybe it even has the Bugs Bunny as Fred Flintstone in the Flintmobile or whatever it's called. But yeah, I like this pop. And then we have Frodo. This is pretty cool. I like the scuffing and like the dirt on his face. I think that's pretty cool. The molding is really good. And then we have the dude. This is pretty sweet. I like how you have like a base with the pop. That's pretty sweet. And the pose itself is hilarious. This is a pretty sweet pop.
As terms to favorites and least favorites for both these days. So day 3, my least favorite will probably have to be Talia al Ghul from Batman. It just seems very plain and simplistic with the posing. And then the best, I would have to give it to Trigon because of the detail, especially with the 4 eyes.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. The Talia, it's just, like I said, it just doesn't seem like a con pop. There's not a ton going on with it. And then, yeah, Trigon, I think, is also the best. I mean, the Bugs Bunny is a close second because it is 2 sets that I like to collect and they are mashed up. But I feel like I could probably just pass on it and be okay with that. But the Trigon, I mean, there's a bunch of detail there, and it's really cool to see interesting sculpts like this when it comes to Funko.
And then for day 4, I didn't go into it right away, but one's obviously the worst and one's the best because there's only 2 to choose from. And this is difficult because both these are pretty cool pops. Like, I believe, in my opinion, this is the best Frodo Baggins pop we've had in the entire Lord of the Rings set. But then you have Jeff the Dude Lebowski, which basically is not a pop besides the Fun on the Run covers that we have not gotten in like 10 years. So I'm just going to say that the Dude pop is the best one, especially with how they pulled off the molding and how it doesn't take away from the OG pop. And then unfortunately, the worst is Frodo with Ring, even though both of these are pretty cool pops, though.
Yeah, I have to agree with exactly that. The Dude, it's awesome to see a new pop for him. And like you said, with the molding, that's really, really great. And yeah, it definitely doesn't take away from this Frodo. Unfortunately, there was only 2 reveals this day because that Frodo is damn awesome.
All right, so now we're looking at day 5 reveals, which are from July 10th. So kicking off first, we have a glow-in-the-dark Sesshomaru from Inuyasha, which is going to be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US. A Scooby-Doo in scuba outfit, which is going to be shared with the Funko Shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. A hatching raptor for the Jurassic Park 30th anniversary set, which this is going to be shared with Target in the US and Grosvenor here in Canada. 2 versions of Gaia from Captain Planet, one being a regular version exclusive to the Funko Shop or shared to the Funko Shop, and then the other version being a Diamond Collection version that will be limited to 2,000 pieces, therefore being a con-only pop. Tweety from Looney Tunes was just going to be shared with Toy Tokyo in the US only. A Timmy Turner, Cosmos, and Wanda 3-pack from Fairly Odd Parents was going to be shared with Major in the US only. Butterfly Heimlich from A Bug's Life, which I didn't add to this, but there also is a Diamond Collection version as a part of a Pop and Tea bundle. The regular version will be shared with the Funko Shop in the US and Toys R Us in Canada, while the regular version will be con only because it's a Pop and Bag bundle and will be limited to 4,000 pieces. Then we have Wicket with Slingshot from Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi, which is going to be shared with FYE in the US and Sunrise Records here in Canada. 001 from Stranger Things, which is going to be shared with Target in the US and GameStop here in Canada. Ariel from the live action Little Mermaid, which is going to be shared with Target in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. Young Leia from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is going to be shared with Entertainment Earth in the US and Grosvenor here in Canada. And last but not least, for day 5, we have ourselves Short Round from Indiana Jones, which will be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US.
All right, starting off with the new Inuyasha pop. This is awesome, and I like how you get a glow-in-the-dark aspect to it as well, though there's not a ton glowing, but that's fine. It's awesome. I've been really loving how we've been seeing a lot of Inuyasha pops recently. I think it's a set that makes sense to keep growing, and doing them for cons makes a lot of sense to me, too. And then we got Scuba Doo. This is pretty cool. I like this. One of my buddies right now does actually have like a pretty much complete set of Scooby-Doo pops, so I might have to end up trying to find this for him or letting him do it himself. I guess we'll find out, but nonetheless, this is a pretty cool pop. And then we have the Hatching Raptor, and this is really cool. I mean, it doesn't quite look like a Funko Pop because of the way that it's done, but we have seen other dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, and it is very similar to those with the head sculpt, I guess. But this looks awesome, and I'm sure that Jurassic Park fans are ecstatic about this pop. And then we got Gaia from Captain Planet, and this is pretty cool, and it's actually a good example of sometimes Diamond Collection is better, and I completely think that that is the way that this is with this pop. I think that the diamond or the glitter on the dress makes it pop out more. I really like the headband looks like it's more of a gold rather than that yellow color that you see with, I guess, the common pop. Yeah, this Diamond Collection is pretty sweet. This is definitely the way to do it. Then we have Tweety, and this is pretty sweet. I'm going to have to get this, I think, because I am trying to grow my Looney Tunes collection, and I don't think we've really had a like singular Tweety pop besides like you get the Tweety with the Sylvester, and I guess there's like the flock version or whatever too. But this is pretty cool. I like the outfit, and this kind of makes sense for a con as well. And then we have the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. Finally, after all of these years of wanting this and saying how we can get an awesome wave, we can be seeing sweet pops, we finally get this 3-pack, and I really, really hope it. I know that it's going to do well. I mean, it's Fairly Odd Parents, and it's a 3-pack with Timmy and then Cosmo and Wanda as well. That's perfect. A perfect way to start off this set, but I really hope that Funko decides, hey, we need to start doing some Fairly Odd Parents stuff every con for, I don't know, the next year or so until we kind of fill out the set, because there's a lot of characters that people are going to want, like Crocker, just a ton of characters that can be done from Fairly Odd Parents that would look awesome in Funko Pop form. And then we got Heimlich, and this makes sense. This is kind of what we thought it was going to be, where he finally turns into a butterfly. This is cool. Pop and bag bundle, that's kind of neat as well, though some people might not want the bag, so you would have to go to like a third-party kind of source to buy this, like eBay or like a toy show or a con or anything like that. Then we have Wicket, and this is unnecessary. We got a lot of Wicket pops now at this point. This is a cool Wicket. I like it. I like how he has the little thing that he's kind of winding up to throw. But I don't know. I was really hoping we were going to see a different Ewok that we haven't seen yet, and it is a bit of a letdown. Then we have 001, and for a damn basic pop, this looks pretty cool. Of course, I am going for almost a complete set of Stranger Things pops, so this is definitely a need for my collection. I like how the hand is out. I like the way that they did the hair. They did what they could with it because it is a pretty basic character. I feel like we will see more versions of it down the pipeline, though. Then we have Ariel, and this is okay. I mean, we've seen other ones before, but this one's not bad. Then we have Young Leia, and this is pretty cool. I mean, what a time to see in the show where you have young Leia and young Luke. I think that this is a pretty sweet pop, and I'm sure that a lot of hardcore Star Wars fans are definitely going to want to get this. And then the Indiana Jones pop, this is really awesome. The base, it's okay. I don't necessarily think it needs to have that base, but I don't know. I also do like it because of the way that it kind of has like the carvings, and then of course it says Indiana Jones right across the front, kind of like the Star Wars pops, but I think that this is done a bit better than the way that the Star Wars pops do it.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, this is a bit difficult considering like this was easily the best day out of all the, like, I believe now 7 days that there was for our San Diego Comic-Con reveals. But as terms to it's hard to choose a least favorite because they are all pretty decent, besides a couple, which was a little bit more easier to choose my least favorite, and that's got to be the Ariel. We've already gotten 3 of her in the normal wave, and I don't think it was really needed. This could have been done as just a regular exclusive, not a Comic-Con exclusive. And then, I mean, I feel like everyone's going to choose this pop as their favorite. I'm sure MD is going to mention this as his favorite for this day. It's got to be the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. I mean, we've been waiting for Fairly Odd Parents for so long, and the fact that they actually did a 3-pack was a little bit surprising because I thought they would have done it as a 2-pack with Cosmo and Wanda and then Timmy Turner by himself. But it's really cool to have Timmy Turner, especially a little Easter egg there, maybe for possibly New York Comic-Con. He is holding a comic book of the Crimson Chin, so that's wicked.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with that, man. The Ariel, it's a nice looking pop. It looks okay, but we have had other ones, and it just didn't need to be kind of filling in slots for San Diego Comic-Con. And then, of course, yeah, the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. I mean, this is perfect. There's nothing more that they could have done with this. I mean, having them have the small bodies and being on the bases like that is so good. I love the way that they did that. And then the Timmy Turner looks great as well. You add the mouth because you kind of need to be showing those Bucky Beavers that he has. And then they even go one step ahead and throw in the Crimson Chin comic book. This is awesome. And like I said, I really, really hope that Funko continues with making a ton of different Fairly Odd Parents pops.
All right, now going on to day 6 of reveals, which is July 12th. Kicking off first, we have a set of pretty much Freddy Funko Pops, starting off with Floaty Freddy Funko, which will be shared with the Funko shop in the US only. A Blacklight Floaty Freddy Funko, which will be a con-only pop, unknown of how many pieces that pop will be. A Freddy Funko Bowling Trophy Pop, which will be shared with the Funko shop in the US only. And that will be the same thing with the other 2 pops, being the Fun on the Run Freddy Funko and the Proto Pop with the Blockbuster Rewind tape. Then we have Lilith for the Marvel lineup, which will be shared with Entertainment Earth in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. Ghost Rider from the Midnight Suns game, which is going to be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US. MODOK from Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania, which is going to be shared with GameStop in both Canada and the US. The next Classics Pop, which is Spider-Man, which is going to be shared with the Funko shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. From Thor Love and Thunder, we have Thor in Toga, which is going to be shared with the Funko shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada. And then Gore's Daughter, which is going to be shared with Entertainment Earth in the US only. And last but not least, we have Captain Marvel for the Marvel lineup, which will be shared with Target in the US and GameStop here in Canada.
All right, so starting off with the Freddys. These are okay Freddys. I like the bowling trophy. That's kind of interesting to see. And it's cool to see a blacklight version as well with the floaty Freddy. But I don't know, all 4 of them, looking at them this way, they just don't do a ton for me. There's nothing, I guess, super special about them. And then Proto, that's really awesome. It's awesome to see a Proto pop. And I think that the way that they did it makes a lot of sense too. Next, we have Lilith from the Marvel lineup, and there's quite a bit of detail with this pop. I have no clue who this is, but I do think that the pop looks good. And then we have Ghost Rider, and this is an interesting version. I don't know if this is from the comic books. I mean, it must be, or maybe from, I don't even know, but it looks cool. I don't think it's exactly what people think of when they think of Ghost Rider, so that kind of makes sense for a con. And then we have MODOK, and this is okay. I feel like this doesn't have to be a con exclusive. We will be seeing more MODOK pops, I'm sure, but we already have seen quite a few at this point. So I don't know. It's not that special, but I do think it looks good. And then we have the Spider-Man for the Classics lineup, and this is decent. I like the Classics lineup. I don't think that this is a pop that necessarily needed to be done. I mean, it is a classic pop. The Spider-Man pop is awesome. I do own the original of this pop, and there are some paint issues with that pop, so hopefully it does get fixed with this, which I'm pretty sure it will be fixed. But I feel like the Classics lineup should kind of be saved for some different like grail pops, not pops that are kind of easily accessible. For instance, like the Lotso. I mean, that made a lot of sense to do that one. With this, it's special, but it's not really a special pop. And then we have the 2 pops from Thor Love and Thunder with Thor as well as Gorg's Daughter. This is okay. Did see some gripes how it's just called like the daughter and they didn't actually give her a name. I don't know if that's exactly the way it was in the movie because I haven't seen the movie. I don't know. I guess they could have probably given her a name because I'm sure she does have a name somewhere in some kind of record book with Marvel. But overall, these pops both look pretty decent. And then lastly, we have the Captain Marvel, and this is okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, but I do kind of like the outfit and the weapon that they used for this pop.
First, I wanted to add the Ghost Rider, which I did mention it, but it is from the Midnight Suns game that came out,
That's
which
okay.
which originally, when you got that game, you were able to get the Iron Man that was a part of the game. So now they've expanded on that lineup, which I do agree this is a really cool version of Ghost Rider with Gore's daughter. So technically, in the movie, she didn't really have a name, but near the end of the movie, I think Thor nicknamed her Love, hence the name Thor Love and Thunder. So maybe that's why they didn't put it on there, because she technically, like, her name wasn't Love. But in terms of favorites and least favorite, I gotta say MODOK. Oh my God. Like, we already have the MODOK from the Common Wave, and I think that was good enough. And I can easily say this because actually this past weekend, I finally watched Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which took me a bit, but now I see this and it's like, okay, this is all right. But I don't know. You could have done something much. I would have rather seen a pop from Guardians 3 take this slot instead of another Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And then as terms to my favorite, this was a toss-up because I was going to go with the Ghost Rider because of how cool it is. But I'm going to go with Proto because we've never had a pop of Proto. We've seen lots of Freddy Funkos, obviously, but seeing Proto, which was one of the original Funko mascots along with Freddy Funko back in the Wacky Wobbler days, like, it's finally cool that Proto finally has his own pop, and it's a pop that I might get.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. I mean, I have to agree with that. The MODOK is pretty cool, but like I said, there have been other MODOKs, so it just doesn't feel super special, and I don't think it could have just been a normal exclusive. And then, yeah, the Ghost Rider is cool, but Proto, that's pretty sweet. It's a pop of a character that doesn't have a pop. So usually when that happens, especially when it is kind of a special character like Proto, it's going to be a fan favorite for sure.
And lastly, we have the 7th and final day of San Diego Comic-Con reveals that happened July 14th, and there's only 5 pops that were announced. First, we have 2 pops from Hunter x Hunter, which are Awake and Gone, which is going to be shared with the Funko Shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada, and Shia-Poof, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, probably not, which is going to be shared with Hot Topic in both Canada and the US. 2 pops of Surfing Tony the Tiger, first being a regular version that will be shared with the Funko Shop in the US and Toys R Us here in Canada, and then a flocked version which will be limited to 2,000 pieces and will be con only. And last but not least, we have ourselves Johnny Knoxville for the WWE lineup, which is going to be shared with Amazon in both Canada and the US.
So starting off with the Hunter x Hunter pops, these are both interesting. The first one is a supersized pop, though it is like a normal pop, which is funny because obviously the hair is what's making it be that way. I hope that the price isn't a lot more because of that, like the price of, let's say, like a 6-inch pop, because I don't think it's really worth it at that point, but that's just me. And then we have the other Hunter x Hunter pop, and this is pretty sweet. I like how this looks. I don't know really anything about Hunter x Hunter, but I like the way that this character looks, and I feel like this will sell decently. And then we have the Tony the Tiger, and this is interesting. I'm obviously a huge fan of the ad icons, so I kind of have to make a decision whether I want to just get the common or if I also want the flocked one, if I want them both, or if I'm just going to get one. Though that flocked one's real nice, but 2,000 pieces is a low piece count and con only, so it would be buying it from someone, which I don't think is going to be cheap, but I guess time will tell and we'll find out which one I end up deciding to want to get. And then lastly, we have Johnny Knoxville. We did see the leak list and we knew we were going to be getting a Johnny Knoxville. Apparently, this is what we get. We get a WWE version. It's kind of cool, but I don't think that's what we really wanted. And we both love WWE, but I would have liked to see a Jackass line of pops, and it doesn't seem like that's what we're going to be getting.
As terms to favorites and least favorites, my least favorite is going to be the Awake and Gone from Hunter x Hunter. I almost wanted to give it to Johnny Knoxville, but at least there could be a chance I get it, even though I don't think I'm going to get it. But with Awake and Gone, I think it's exactly what you mentioned. It is basically a 4-inch pop, but it's 6-inch because of how massive the hair is. It just looks like a oversized hair of a troll. But yeah, there could be a possibility this pop will be more than I believe it's $15 US it will be for Comic-Con prices. And my favorite has has to be the flocked surfing Tony the Tiger. I mean, the Tony looks cool, and if you were to choose between the common or the regular or the flocked one, it's got to be the flocked one. So yeah, that definitely would have to be my favorite.
Yeah, I have to agree with that whole statement. Definitely don't want to overpay for a pop that I don't think you necessarily should have to. So that has to be the least favorite. And then, of course, the flocked Tony the Tiger. Really awesome. Not exactly what I wanted. We did do like a predictions video, and the Tony the Tiger that I kind of wanted would be in like a hockey attire or even like the soccer attire. But surfing, that's pretty cool.
All right, so before we end off this podcast, we thought we would talk about like our 3 favorite pops as terms of this entire con within the 7 days. And I feel like, not gonna lie, MD and I might have pretty much the same top 3 list, except maybe one is different. I'll mention the one that's different, and that has got to be the hatching raptor from Jurassic Park. I think that pop is so detailed and so awesome. And then my other 2, I'd have to say the flocked surfing Tony the Tiger. That thing looks awesome, and it definitely fits the whole theme of San Diego Comic-Con, summer convention. And then the top pop, no pun intended to the YouTuber, is the 3-pack of Timmy Turner, Cosmos, and Wanda. I mean, we've been wanting a Fairly Odd Parents pop or Pops with an S at the end for years, and this is the first one, and obviously this has got to start out with a bang with the main character and the fairy godparents there. Really awesome multi-pack. Definitely probably will be the best multi-pack of the year.
All right, so yeah, I guess in the order that I wrote them, I got 001 on here. I mean, it's a Stranger Things SDCC exclusive. I have to love it. And I do think the pop is great, like I said, for being a character that doesn't really have like a crazy attire or anything. I think they did a good job. The pose makes sense, and I do enjoy the pop. And then I have the flocked Tony the Tiger. I mean, it's awesome. I really want it in my collection. I know it's going to be expensive, but I think I might have to do it, though it isn't one of the versions of Tony the Tiger that I wanted. Then that maybe could have been potentially my favorite. But of course, my favorite from this con is the Fairly Odd Parents 3-pack. It's really cool. I like how they added some different touches to it with the Crimson Chin comic book. I don't think that was absolutely necessary. They could have even done a singular pop down the line where he is holding that, and fans would have liked that, but they gave it to us with the 3-pack, and then Cosmo and Wanda as well. It's just exactly what you could ask for. You could have got Cosmo and Wanda, you could have got just Timmy Turner, and I would have been really happy with that, but we have a 3-pack. It's a beautiful thing.
Anyways, guys, that is going to be the end of this edition of a Funko Podcast. If you enjoyed this edition, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your favorite pops from San Diego Comic-Con 2023, and we hope to see you guys on another edition of a Funko Podcast. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Obtuse Rubber Goose, Green Moose Java Goose, Giant Snake Birthday Cake, Lies for Ice, Chocolate Shake. Peace in, peace out.